She was the last one brought forward, led by the elbow, because she could not see the faces that had already decided her worth. The man who paid for her did not bargain, did not speak more than a number, and did not look at her as if she were something to be pitied. By nightfall, she would belong to a ranch she had never seen, and a man she did not understand. The question was not whether he had bought trouble, but whether she would survive what came with him. This is not a story about rescue. It is about two people who had learned to live in the dark, and what happened when they chose to trust what they could not see. The wind carried dust across the yard in low, stinging sheets that settled into the seams of clothing and the corners of mouths. Hannah Cole stood on the auction platform with her hands folded at her waist, feeling the rough grain of the wood beneath her boots and the heat of late afternoon pressing against her skin. Voices moved around her in a restless tide, men shifting, leather creaking, coins clinking. She kept her chin level. She did not turn her head toward the sound of the auctioneer because she already knew how he would look at her. Quick assessment, quicker dismissal. "Last lot," the man called, his voice sharp with impatience. "Healthy, strong, capable of housework." A pause, then quieter, meant to carry but not linger. Blind. The word settled heavier than the dust. Hannah felt it land in the space between her ribs. She did not flinch. She had learned not to give strangers the satisfaction. "Start at 10, the auctioneer said. Silence stretched. A boot scuffed. Someone coughed. 5, another voice offered, reluctant. 5 it is. Do I hear 6? The heat pressed harder. Sweat slipped along Hannah's spine, cool against the cotton of her dress. She counted her breaths. She had 7 days left before the boarding house turned her out, 7 days before the last of her father things were sold to settle a debt she had not made. This was what remained. 6. The new voice came from the edge of the crowd. Low, flat, certain, the auctioneer brightened. 6. Do I hear 7? No answer. The crowd shifted again, a low murmur like wind through dry grass. 7, the same voice said. A stir. A few heads turned. Hannah could not see it, but she felt the change in the air, the slight tightening of attention. 7 going once. 8, a different man called, quick, almost testing. The first voice did not hesitate. 10. The number dropped like a stone into water. Ripples of surprise moved through the yard. 10, the auctioneer echoed, pleased now. Do I hear 11? No one answered. 10 going once, going twice. The gavel struck. The sound cracked sharp and final. Sold. Hands touched her arm, firm, impersonal, guiding her down from the platform. The wood gave way to packed dirt beneath her boots, warm and uneven. She steadied herself, refusing to stumble. Name, a man asked close to her ear. Hannah Cole, a beat. Then that same low voice, closer now. Come with me. He did not take her arm. He did not offer a hand. He turned and walked, his boots heavy and measured. She listened to the rhythm and followed, matching her steps to his without asking where he was taking her. At the edge of the yard, the air shifted, cooler beneath the thin shade of a hitching post. Leather creaked as he checked something, reins perhaps. A horse snorted, warm breath carrying the scent of hay and animal heat. You ride? He asked. Yes, mount to your left. She found the saddle by touch, the worn leather smooth beneath her palm, the stirrups swinging lightly against her ankle. She mounted without assistance. The horse shifted but did not protest. He watched her. She could feel it, a weight she could not see. You do not ask questions, he said. You do not offer answers. A pause. The wind moved between them. You got a roof, he said. I kept my land. That is the arrangement. The words were plain, but something under them held, tight, controlled, like a knot pulled hard. What land? She asked. Ranch west of town. Dying if I do not fix it. And you believe I can help you fix it. I believe I paid for labor. She inclined her head once. Then you will have it. He did not respond. The reins shifted. The horse beneath her began to move, slow at first, then steady. The sound of hooves on hard dirt carried them away from the yard and the voices that had measured her. The road stretched long and uneven, the air cooling as the sun lowered. Dust settled against her lips, dry and familiar. She counted the turns by the angle of the wind, the slope by the way the horse leaned beneath her. He rode beside her, silent, his presence marked only by the steady rhythm of his mount and the faint scent of leather and iron. After a time, he spoke. "Name Caleb Turner." She nodded. "Mr. Turner." "Caleb." The correction was brief, almost reluctant. "Caleb," she said. The name sat between them, untested. They rode until the air grew sharp with evening and the smell of dry grass thickened. The ground changed underhoof, softer, then packed again. A gate creaked open. The sound echoed wide, swallowed by open land. The ranch revealed itself not in sight for her, but in sound and scent, the lowing of cattle distant and thin, the hollow clap of a loose shutter, the faint metallic tang of rust. He dismounted. Boots hit dirt. He did not come to her immediately. She waited, hands resting lightly on the reins. After a moment, he stepped closer. "Careful," he said. "Ground uneven." She swung down, her boots finding dirt that dipped slightly beneath her weight. He stood near enough that she could feel the heat of him, but he did not touch her. "House ahead," he said. 3 steps up to the porch. She walked, counting, the wood of the porch rough beneath her soles. A door opened with a drawn-out creak. Inside, the air held the scent of cold ash and old timber. "You will sleep in the back room," he said. "Kitchen to the right, water pump out back." She moved forward, mapping the space with careful steps, fingers brushing the edge of a table, the back of a chair. The house was sparse, functional, empty in a way that spoke of more than just furniture. "Work starts at dawn," he said. "I am aware of dawn," she replied. A brief silence, then, almost against his will, "Did not say you were not." She set her small bag on the table. The wood was worn smooth at the edges, nicked and scarred from years of use. She ran her hand along it, grounding herself. "You said your ranch is dying," she said. "Why?" A longer pause this time. She could hear him shift, the faint scrape of a boot. "Water low," he said. "Debt high, herd thinning, and the deadline." He exhaled, the sound controlled. End of the season. "If I do not pay what is owed, the land goes." She nodded once. "Then we have a measure." He did not answer. She heard him move toward the door. "Mr. Turner," she said. He stopped. "You paid $10, she said. "That is all you had." It was not a question. "Yes." "You expect me to be worth it?" "I expect you to work." She turned slightly toward the sound of him. I will." He stood there a moment longer, as if weighing something he could not name. Then the door opened, the evening air slipping in cool and dry. "Dawn," he said again, and stepped out into the dark. The first morning came with a chill that bit through fabric and settled in the bones. Hannah woke before the light, the air in the room cold enough that her breath felt thin. She dressed by memory, fingers quick and practiced, then moved into the kitchen. The floor creaked beneath her steps, the stove cold and waiting. She found the woodpile by touch, the rough bark catching against her skin, and fed the stove piece by piece until flame took hold. The first crackle of fire brought a small contained warmth. By the time Caleb entered, the smell of coffee filled the room, bitter and steady. He paused in the doorway. She heard it, the slight break in his stride. "You know your way around a kitchen," he said. "I know my way around work." He crossed the room, the boards groaning under his weight, and took the cup she set near the edge of the table. Their fingers did not touch. "Eat quick," he said. "Then we see what you can do." They stepped out into the morning, the sun not yet warm, the air sharp with the scent of dry earth. The yard stretched uneven beneath her boots, the ground cracked in places. "Barn ahead," he said. "Mind the threshold." Inside, the air changed, cooler, thick with hay and animal breath. A cow shifted, hooves scraping wood. "Milk first," he said. "If you cannot manage that, we find you something else." She did not answer. She moved toward the sound of the cow, her hand finding the flank, warm and solid. The animal stilled beneath her touch. She crouched, the stool creaking softly, and set the pail beneath. Caleb watched. Her hands moved with practiced certainty, the rhythm steady, the sound of milk striking metal sharp in the quiet. He leaned against the post, arms crossed. He had expected hesitation. He had expected clumsiness. He had expected to regret $10 before the sun was fully up. Instead, he watched her work as if she had done it 100 times. Where did you learn? He asked. My father kept 2 cows, she said, before the debt. The words were flat, final. He nodded once, though she could not see it. They worked through the morning in a silence that was not empty, but measured. He showed her the layout of the barn, the position of tools, the path to the water pump. She learned quickly, mapping the space in her mind, counting steps, marking turns by the feel of air and sound. By the 4th morning, she moved through the yard without hesitation, her steps sure even over the uneven ground. Caleb found himself watching less for mistakes and more for what she would do next. A week into their arrangement, the ranch did not look as if it were dying. It looked as if it were being held together by 2 people who refused to let it fall. The first time he saw her do something he had not asked for came in the late afternoon, the heat pressing down, heavy and unmoving. A calf lay near the fence, its breathing shallow, its side heaving. Caleb cursed under his breath and moved toward it, already calculating the loss. Hannah was there before him, drawn by the sound. She knelt in the dirt, her hands moving over the animal with careful precision, feeling for what she could not see. Water, she said, without looking up. He hesitated only a second, then turned, grabbing a bucket and filling it at the pump. The metal handle bit cold into his palm. By the time he returned, she had found the problem, something lodged, something wrong in the way the calf breathed. Hold its head, she said. He did. The animal struggled, weak but desperate. Her fingers worked sure and steady until the obstruction came free. The calf coughed, then drew a deep, shuddering breath. They both stilled. You have done this before, he said. Once, she answered. It was enough. He looked at her differently then, not as a cost, not as a solution, but as something he had not accounted for. This is Dusty Vows, where stories like hers live, women who were underestimated, men who did not yet know what they were missing. If you want the next story the moment it arrives, subscribe now. Then back to the ranch. He set the bucket down slowly. You did not say. You did not ask. A corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. That evening, as the sun dropped and the air cooled, they stood on the porch, the wood still warm beneath their boots. The horizon stretched unseen for her, but she felt it in the way the wind softened. You saved it, he said. I preserved your investment, she replied. He huffed a breath that might have been a laugh. You always speak like that. It prevents misunderstanding. He looked at her at the way she held herself, straight, contained, unyielding. Town tomorrow, he said. Need supplies. I will come. He shook his head before remembering she could not see it. No need. I will come, she repeated. You said your debt is high. I would like to see your accounts. They are mine. They affect me. A pause. The wind moved between them, carrying the scent of dust and distant cattle. Fine, he said, but you stay close. I do not wander. The next day, the town felt different under her feet, boards instead of dirt, the air crowded with voices and the sharp tang of metal and sweat. Caleb walked beside her, closer than before, his presence a steady line she could follow. Inside the mercantile, the floor creaked under the weight of bodies. Conversations dipped, then shifted, attention turning toward them. Turner, a man called. Heard you bought yourself a burden. Caleb did not slow. Heard you cannot mind your own business, Reed. A low chuckle. The man stepped closer. Hannah could feel it in the way the air tightened. That her? Reed asked. Looks like less than $10 worth. Caleb hand flexed at his side. Watch your mouth. Or what? Reed said, amused. You will spend another 10. Hannah stepped forward, the boards cool beneath her boots. Mr. Reed, she said, her voice even. If you have business with Caleb, state it plainly. If not, step aside. The store went quiet. Reed laughed, sharp and dismissive. She speaks. She also keeps accounts, Hannah said, which is more than I can say for a man who owes 3 suppliers and pays none on time. A murmur moved through the room. Caleb turned his head slightly, looking at her as if seeing her anew. Reed amusement faltered. You do not know what you are talking about. I know numbers, she said, and I know your name appears too often beside them. Silence held for a beat. Then Reed stepped back, the fight draining from him under the weight of unseen scrutiny. "Get your supplies, Turner," he muttered, "and your woman under control." "She's not yours to talk about," Caleb said, quiet and final. The words settled heavier than a shout. They finished their business without further interruption. Outside, the sun burned hot against the skin, the air thick and unmoving. "You did not have to do that," Caleb said. "Yes," she replied. "I did." He studied her. "You humiliated him. I corrected him." A pause. "Thank you," he said, the words rough, unused. "I did not do it for appreciation," she answered. "I did it because failing serves neither of us." He nodded once. It was enough. By the end of the second week, the ranch had begun to shift. Small things, fences mended, accounts tallied, water usage measured and adjusted. Caleb found himself listening when she spoke, even when he did not want to admit it. The threat came quietly at first, a letter delivered with the morning post, the paper dry and stiff beneath his fingers. Payment due in full by the end of the month, no extensions. Failure to comply will result in immediate seizure of property. Signed, Elias Reed. Caleb's jaw tightened. He folded the paper once, then again, the edges sharp. Hannah stood in the doorway, the cool shadow of the house at her back. "Bad news," she said. He looked at her, then at the letter. "Reed holds the note," he said. "I did not know. You do now. He wants the land." "Yes." He exhaled slowly, the air leaving him in a controlled line. "We do not have enough. Then we find a way." "How?" She stepped forward, the boards warm beneath her feet. "We review your accounts. We reduce waste. We negotiate." "He will not negotiate." "Everyone negotiates," she said, "if the terms are right." He looked at her, at the certainty in her voice. "You cannot see him," he said. "You do not know how he works." "I do not need to see a man to understand his interests," she replied. He almost argued, almost dismissed it. Instead, he handed her the letter. She ran her fingers lightly over the paper, feeling the impression of the ink, the shape of the words. "He is overextended," she said. "You cannot know that." "He called in your debt early," she said. "Men do not do that unless they need something quickly." Caleb considered that, the logic settling into place despite himself. "What do you suggest?" he asked. She lifted her chin slightly. "We make him need something else more." The heat of the day pressed close as they stood there, the weight of the coming week settling between them. At the end of the fourth week, the pressure had built to a point that could not be ignored. Reed arrived at the ranch just past midday, his horse kicking up dust as he rode hard into the yard. Caleb stepped out to meet him, the sun hot on his shoulders. "You are early," Caleb said. "I'm done waiting," Reed replied, swinging down from his saddle. "You have my money." "No. Then I have your land." Hannah stood in the doorway, the cool shade behind her, the scent of the house a mix of wood and ash anchoring her. "Not yet," she said. Reed turned, a smirk already forming. "And what do you think you have to say about it?" "I think," she said, "that if you take this land now, you lose more than you gain." He laughed. "You do not even know what it looks like." "I know what it produces," she said, "and I know what you owe elsewhere." His expression tightened just slightly. "You're bluffing." "No," she said. "I'm offering you a better arrangement." Caleb glanced at her, a flicker of something like surprise and something else sharper. Reed crossed his arms. "Go on then." "You extend the term by 2 months," she said. "In return, you receive priority payment from the next cattle drive, plus a portion of the current herd at market value. That is less than I am owed. It is more than you will receive if you take the land and fail to manage it," she said. "You do not have the labor. You do not have the water management. You will lose cattle. You will lose money." A silence stretched, thick with heat. "You think I cannot run a ranch," Reed said. "I think," she replied, "that if you could, you would already be doing so." Caleb felt something shift in his chest, a tightness loosening and tightening all at once. Reed's jaw worked. He looked between them, calculating. "You are asking me to trust you," he said. "I'm asking you to act in your own interest," Hannah answered. He hesitated, and in that hesitation, something changed. He said her name differently then, low and uncertain. Hannah. It was the first time. The sound of it settled between them, heavier than anything else that had been said. Reed watched, eyes narrowing. "You are a fool, Turner." "Maybe," Caleb said, "but I'm not desperate enough to hand you everything without a fight." Reed exhaled sharply. 2 months, he said. "No more." "It will be enough," Hannah said. He pointed a finger toward her, a thin smile returning. "If it is not, I take it all." He mounted his horse and rode out, dust rising behind him in a harsh, choking cloud. The yard fell quiet again. Caleb turned to her, the sun hot against his skin, the air still heavy. "You pushed him," he said. "Yes. If he calls it early again." "He will not," she said. "You do not know that." "I know men like him," she replied, "and I know what he fears." Caleb looked at her at the way she stood there, unmoving, certain. "You should not have had to do that," he said. "And yet," she answered, "it is done." The moment hung between them, unresolved, charged with something neither of them named. He said her name differently that time, and they both heard it. Tell me, did you feel that shift, or was it only her? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every one. Now back to the story. The weeks that followed were harder than anything before. The heat deepened, pressing down until even the wind felt heavy. Water had to be rationed with precision. Every task carried weight. Caleb found himself watching her less for proof and more for presence. She moved through the ranch with a quiet certainty, her hands knowing where to go, what to do. She kept the accounts with exactness, her fingers tracing numbers, her mind holding them steady. One evening, as the sun bled out into the horizon, they worked side by side, repairing a section of fence. The wood was rough beneath their hands, splinters catching skin. "You should rest," he said. "So should you," I asked first, and I answered. A pause. "You do not make things easy," he said. "I make them possible," she replied. He looked at her then, really looked, as if trying to see past what was visible. "I do not know how to do this," he said, the words pulled from somewhere deeper than he intended. "Do what?" "This," he said, gesturing between them, "the ranch, everything." She was quiet for a moment. "Neither do I," she said. "We are learning." The admission settled between them, softer than the heat, heavier than the dust. The final test came sooner than expected. A storm rolled in from the west, sudden and violent, the sky darkening, the air turning sharp and cold. Wind tore at the land, ripping loose anything not secured. The cattle panicked, scattering toward the weakest part of the fence. "Move," Caleb shouted, already running. Hannah followed the sound, the wind cutting against her skin, cold and biting. She reached the fence just as it gave way, wood snapping under pressure. "Rope!" she called. He threw it toward her. She caught it, her fingers burning against the coarse fibers. "Anchor it to the post," she said. "Higher." He did, his movements fast, precise. She worked the rope through the broken section, creating a barrier strong enough to hold, if only just. The wind howled, the smell of rain sharp and metallic. "Drive them back," she shouted. He moved along the line, pushing the cattle away from the break, his voice cutting through the storm. For a moment, it held. Then a post cracked, the wood splitting with a sharp report. Caleb lunged, grabbing it, bracing it with his body. "Go," he shouted. "Get back." "I will not leave you," she said. "Go." She did not move. Instead, she stepped closer, her hands finding the rope, reinforcing it, her body angled against the wind. Together, they held. The storm passed as suddenly as it had come, leaving the air cold and clean, the ground slick beneath their boots. Caleb let go of the post slowly, his arms shaking with the strain. "You should have gone," he said, breath rough. "And left you," she replied. "Yes." "No." He looked at her, the words catching somewhere in his throat. "You could have been hurt." "So could you." A beat. He stepped closer, the space between them narrowing. "Hannah," he said again, the name heavier now, carrying something he could no longer ignore. She turned her face slightly toward him, as if she could see him in some other way. "Yes." The word was soft, but it held. He reached out, then stopped, his hand hovering in the space between them before falling back to his side. The gesture hung there, unfinished, understood. By the end of the second month, the ranch stood. Not perfect, not safe, but standing. The day of reckoning came under a clear sky, the air warm and still. Reed arrived again, slower this time, his horse picking its way across the yard. "Well," he called, "you have what is mine." Caleb stepped forward, a ledger in his hand. "We have an offer," he said. Reed smirked. "You already made one." "And we improved it," Hannah said, stepping beside him. She laid out the terms, precise, measured, impossible to ignore. Payment structured to meet Reed-owned obligations, numbers aligned in a way that left him with no better option. He listened, his expression shifting from amusement to calculation to reluctant acceptance. "You have done your homework," he said. "I always do," she replied. A long pause, then he nodded once. "Fine." The word dropped like a final stone. The land was theirs. Not by chance. Not by mercy. By work. Reed turned to leave, then glanced back. "You are wasted here," he said to Hannah. "You could do more." "I am," she said simply. He left without another word. The yard fell quiet again. Caleb stood there, the ledger heavy in his hand, the sun warm against his skin. "It is done," he said. "Yes." He looked at her, at everything they had built, everything they had become. "I do not want this to end," he said. She was still for a moment. "It does not have to," she replied. He stepped closer, closing the last of the distance. "Stay," he said. "Not because of the arrangement, because of me." She did not hesitate. "Yes." The word was quiet. Final. He reached out then, his hand finding hers, rough against her skin, warm and certain. She did not pull away. They stood like that, the sun lowering, the air cooling, the ranch stretching around them, no longer a place of survival alone, but something chosen. She walked into that arrangement with nothing but a deadline and a reputation that diminished her. He walked out of it knowing he had been the one who needed saving from his own solitude. Tell me, would you have trusted a man you could not see or walked away before the price was set? Leave your answer below. Tomorrow a woman named Clara arrives in Red Hollow carrying a marriage certificate signed by a man who died 2 years ago and a child no one has seen. Subscribe now so you do not miss her story.